They always met like this, when the world was asleep. "You're late," Sarah said softly. "You're stunning," Andy replied with the most disarming smile. She swats his arm, but he catches her wrist, pulls her into the alcove behind an unused ticket counter. The moment they're hidden, his hands are on her waist, her back against the wall. Their kiss is hungry, reckless, the kind that leaves lipstick smudged on collars and forgets about consequences. Like horny teenagers in love, they could barely contain themselves as their taxi took them to Andy's hotel room. Andy pressing Sarah against the window of a hotel room, the city lights blurring behind her, he could hardly keep his hands off her as he hungrily tore of her flight attendant's uniform. The passion was intoxicating. Sarah knew she could never let go. After having Andy inside her for what felt like a delicious forever, they slept off with satisfied smiles on their faces. Andy woke her up with soft feathery kisses and had Sarah laughing so sweetly as he fed her strawberries in bed, syrup dripping onto the sheets. This was their ritual. Midnight layovers. Stolen hours in empty airports. Secret meetups in luxurious hotels. A secret world where promises felt real, and wives didn't exist. Have you subscribed to our channel yet? Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. From the outside, Captain Andy Edwards and his wife Cindy had it all. A luxurious home in Miami. A picture-perfect marriage. And Andy's high-flying career as a senior captain for Skyline Airlines. He was even hailed as a hero after saving a failing jet last year. The media loved him. His passengers trusted him. And his wife, Cindy? She adored him. Andy was the perfect husband in every sense, romantic, generous, and attentive. He didn't miss even one of Cindy's book signings. They were a perfect couple, or so it seemed. To the outside world, Andy Edwards was the epitome of a devoted husband. He never missed an anniversary, always presenting Cindy with exquisite gifts. Pearl earrings from Tiffany's, a weekend at the Ritz-Carlton, a surprise Lexus SUV on her 35th birthday. Her fifth book, which became a bestseller, was loosely based on her marriage to the amazing Captain Andy, who took time off work to accompany her on tours around the nation. They didn't have children of their own, but were raising two of Andy's nieces. Andy made sure the neighborhood saw him grilling burgers in their backyard any Sunday he wasn't flying, a beer in hand, laughing with the other dads. He remembered Cindy's favorite wine, a 2015 Napa Cabernet, how she took her coffee, almond milk, one sugar, and even kept a spare pair of her reading glasses in his flight bag. Behind closed doors, Andy was even better. He did the little things like leaving post-it notes in Cindy's makeup drawer, still the most beautiful woman in the room. Or when she had a migraine, he'd draw her a bath with lavender oil and sit with her until she fell asleep. He had the perfect alibis. Business trips always included thoughtful check-ins, a midnight text, "It's cold even with the blankets. Wish you were here with me." Or a room service dessert sent to her just because. He was also a master at emotional manipulation. If Cindy ever seemed suspicious, Andy would flip the script, holding her hand at dinner and murmuring, "You're the only woman who really knows me." The cruelest part? Andy always made Cindy feel guilty for doubting him. When she once asked about a lipstick smudge on his collar, he sighed, hurt. "One of the flight attendants hugged me after I helped her through a panic attack. You know I'd never." Cindy ended up apologizing. If she seemed withdrawn, Andy would plan a spontaneous date night, looking at her with such soft concern that she'd think, how could I ever question him? Once when Cindy found a receipt, not for jewelry or dinners, but for a hotel room in Chicago on a night Andy claimed to be in Denver, she muttered to herself, "Oh, there must be an explanation," and as can be expected, Andy had one, a convincing one at that. Andy's genius was in his consistency. His phone was always left face up when home, in case the airline calls. Cindy never noticed he had a second one buried in his flight bag. His schedule was also predictable. He loved to volunteer for overnight cargo routes. "Less stress, more pay, babe," he would say. Perfect for 3 a.m. hotel stops with Sarah. He was also very discreet. He never took any side chic to their usual spots. No shared restaurants, no shared hotels, no overlapping perfume. Andy wasn't just a cheater, he was an artist. And his masterpiece was making Cindy doubt reality itself. But behind the perfect smiles, Andy was hiding some dark secrets. Have you subscribed to our channel yet? Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. The first time flight attendant Sarah Jones set her eyes on Captain Andy Edwards, she knew he was trouble. Not the loud, obvious kind of trouble, the sort that came with warning signs and red flags. No, Andy was the quiet kind of dangerous. The kind that slipped under your skin before you realized it was there. He was that smooth. It happened during a routine Miami to Chicago red-eye. Sarah, freshly 24 and still bright-eyed from flight attendant training, was running through her pre-flight checks when the cockpit door swung open. "New girl, huh?" The voice was warm, amused. Sarah turned, and there he was. Captain Andy Edwards. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that classic pilot's jawline and a smile that crinkled the corners of his hazel eyes. His uniform was pressed to perfection, the gold stripes on his shoulders gleaming under the cabin lights. The way he leaned against the galley counter, casual, confident, made the cramped space feel suddenly smaller. "Sarah Jones," she said, wiping her palm on her skirt before offering a hand. "Just transferred from Dallas." Andy's grip was firm, his palm slightly calloused. "Andy Edwards. Welcome to the chaos." His thumb brushed her knuckles, just for a second, before letting go. That should have been her first warning. Sarah couldn't stop noticing things about Andy. The way he knew every crew member's name. How he made even the most nervous flyers laugh with his smooth PA announcements. That look he gave her when she handed him his coffee. Black. Like she'd handed him the keys to the universe. It was during their third flight together that he slipped her the note. "Meet me at the Hilton bar after landing." Sarah told herself she wouldn't go. She went. The Hilton bar was all dim lighting and overpriced cocktails. Andy sat in a corner booth, his uniform jacket slung over the chair, his sleeves rolled up to reveal tanned forearms. He stood when he saw her. "You came." Sarah's pulse thundered in her ears. "I shouldn't have." Andy's smile was a slow, dangerous thing. "But you did." 2 drinks in, his knee brushed hers under the table. 3 drinks in, his hand found her waist in the elevator. By the time his hotel room door clicked shut behind them, Sarah had forgotten all the reasons this was a bad idea. Afterward, as she lay tangled in sheets that smelled like his cologne, Andy traced idle patterns on her bare shoulder. "You're different," he murmured. Sarah laughed, light-headed. "That's what they all say." Andy's hand stilled. "I mean it." And the worst part? She believed him. Sarah promised herself that that would be the first and last time. She kept reminding herself that he was married. But deep down she knew that she was straight out lying to herself. The second time was in a Chicago hotel bar after a delayed red-eye. The crew had dispersed, but Andy lingered, nursing a bourbon while Sarah pretended to check her phone. When their eyes met, he didn't look away. "You're too good for this job," he murmured, sliding into the seat beside her. "You should be flying, not serving peanuts." His voice was whiskey smooth, his cufflinks glinting under the low light. Sarah laughed, but her pulse raced when his knee brushed hers under the table. Before the first drink was over, his hand was on her thigh. By the third, they were in the elevator, his mouth hot against her neck as she fumbled with the keycard. The sex was fierce, almost angry, like they were both punishing someone. Afterward, Andy whispered into her ears, "This'll be our secret." Sarah knew she should feel guilty. She didn't. Their affair was a slow-burning fire, one that started with stolen glances across the cockpit and erupted into an all-consuming obsession. They had their secret rituals that became a carefully choreographed dance. Pre-flight, Andy would inspect the galley, his fingers lingering when passing her coffee. She'd slip a note into his flight manual, Hilton, 10 p.m., room 1217. Layovers, she used fake names at hotels. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. A joke that stopped being funny when Sarah realized Cindy's maiden name was Smith. In flight, during overnight cargo runs, they'd lock the cockpit door. Sarah would straddle him in the captain's chair, the plane on autopilot, the stars blinking through the windshield. Andy spoiled her in ways that felt like love, or maybe just payment for silence. A Cartier watch after their first month together. "So you'll always know when to expect me." She didn't notice that he didn't buy the engraving. A black lace lingerie set from Agent Provocateur. For when I undo your uniform. A gold wing pendant identical to his pilot's wings. Now you're mine. What made it addictive wasn't just the sex, it was also the power. Andy loved how young she was, how she looked at him like he'd hung the moon. He'd whisper "good girl" when she obeyed, and something primal in her thrilled at it. Sarah loved that a man who commanded 300-ton jets trembled when she bit his earlobe. That his polished facade cracked when she said, "harder." But the real drug was the risk. Nearly getting caught by the co-pilot when Sarah's lipstick smudged Andy's collar. Cindy's call interrupting them mid-encounter. Andy silencing the phone with one hand while the other gripped Sarah's hair. The way Andy's wedding band left bruises on Sarah's hips, as if even his marriage was marking her. Mia Torres slammed her wineglass down hard enough to make the table rattle. "Let me get this straight. You're sleeping with a married man." "It's not like that," Sarah interrupted, swirling her own drink. "A married man," she repeated. "He's unhappy, Mia. Who just happens to be your captain." Sarah rolled her eyes. "We're careful." Sarah groaned, pulling the covers over her face. "It's not serious." "He's married, you idiot." Mia yanked the blankets off. "He's planning to leave her, you know," Sarah said. Mia leaned across the table, her dark eyes blazing. "You know you're being really stupid right now, Sarah Jones? Are you insane? Do you know how many flight attendants have fallen for that 'I'll leave her' bullshit?" Mia was Sarah's best friend and as sensible as a young woman can be. She knew her friend had fallen hard for her captain and also knew that a heart was going to be broken and that without a doubt, it won't be Captain Edwards. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed. Another text from Andy. "Can't stop thinking about last night. Meet me in Chicago?" She bit her lip to hide her smile, looked up at Mia and tried to keep a straight face, but Mia knew. "Not serious, eh?" Mia asked with a sad look on her face. "Oh God. You're in deep," she groaned. For the next couple of months, Sarah was literally walking on the clouds. She was in love with Captain Andy Edwards, a married man, and she didn't care. But like they say, all good things must come to an end. The cracks were subtle. Sarah learned to spot Andy's tells. The way his voice dropped half an octave when he lied to Cindy on the phone. The too casual shrug when crew members asked about his family. The careful distance he maintained in public. Never touching, never lingering, that made their private moments burn even hotter. Until the night in Minneapolis, when Andy came back from a call with Cindy smelling like expensive scotch, his hands shaking as he poured himself another drink. "She knows," he said hoarsely. Sarah's blood turned to ice. "Knows what?" Andy drained his glass. "Not about you. Just suspects." He ran a hand through his hair, leaving it deliciously mussed. "We need to be more careful." Sarah wrapped her arms around herself. "Or you could just tell her." The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Andy reached for the bottle again. Another crack happened during a layover in Denver. Sarah woke to an empty bed, the sheets cold where Andy should have been. She found him sitting by the window, staring at his phone, his face lit by the pale glow of the screen. "What's wrong?" she asked. Andy didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, he turned the phone toward her. A photo of two little girls in matching Christmas pajamas, grinning gap-toothed grins at the camera. Cindy stood behind them, her arms around their shoulders, her smile bright and unguarded. "I told you we're raising my nieces," Andy said quietly. "First day of school tomorrow." Something sharp twisted in Sarah's chest. She reached for him. Andy stood abruptly, shoving the phone in his pocket. "I should go home." And just like that, he was gone. Then more cracks started to emerge. Sarah had always known, in some vague, unacknowledged way, that she wasn't Andy's first affair. But knowing and seeing were two different things. Her first clue were the receipts. It started with an innocent mistake. Andy had asked her to grab his wallet from his flight bag while he showered in their Miami hotel room. As she reached for it, a slip of paper fluttered to the floor, a $400 receipt from the Palm in Las Vegas, dated 2 weeks prior. Odd. She'd been in Tokyo that day. Then she noticed others. A spa charge from the Four Seasons Orlando, she'd been on a London route. A diamond pendant from a boutique in Dallas, she'd never received diamonds. Her fingers trembled as she stuffed them back, her mind racing. Business dinners. Gifts for Cindy. There's an explanation. But that night, watching Andy charm the bartender with the same smoldering look he'd given her last week, Sarah ordered a double vodka. Then came the condoms a week later. While rooting through his kit for Advil during a layover, she found them. Ribbed. Magnum. She froze. They'd never used those. She bought the supplies. Smooth, ultra-thin, the kind that didn't feel like anything at all. These were foreign. His. Andy walked in, toweling off his hair. What's wrong? Sarah held them up, her voice dangerously calm. Care to explain? Andy didn't even blink. He smirked, plucking them from her fingers. Relax. They're from before you. Before? You didn't think you were the first, did you? He laughed, low and condescending, as he zipped the kit shut. Come on, Sarah. You're smarter than that. The dismissal stung worse than the lie. After that, Sarah started digging. She'd accidentally opened his iPad, searching for deleted texts. She memorized his crew schedules, cross-referencing layovers with Instagram posts from other flight attendants. Once, drunk on red wine, she called him from a blocked number just to hear if his voice sounded guilty. Then came Jessica, a leggy blonde from first class whose laugh was a little too loud when Andy spoke. Sarah watched them during boarding, noting how Jessica's hand lingered when handing him paperwork. That night, in a haze of jealousy, Sarah scrolled through Jessica's Instagram, and there it was. A photo from a layover in Denver. Jessica's manicured fingers holding a cocktail. In the background, blurred but unmistakable, Andy's forearm, his Rolex gleaming under the bar lights. The same night he'd told Sarah he was stuck in meetings. Sarah ambushed him in an airport parking garage, her voice shaking. Who's Jessica? Andy sighed, as if she were a toddler throwing a tantrum. A colleague. Bullshit. You took her to dinner in Denver. It was a crew dinner. He stepped closer, his hands cupping her face. You're the only one I want, Sarah. You know that. His thumb brushed her cheek. The same way he'd touched Jessica in that photo, she was sure of it. Sarah wanted to scream. But then he kissed her, deep and possessive, and her body betrayed her, melting against him. I'll meet you at your place in 15 minutes, he whispered. As he let himself into her place 20 minutes later, Sarah said softly, "You're late." Rather than reply, Andy pulled her urgently into his arms while whispering, "Gosh, you look delicious. I'm gonna eat you up," he growled. Sarah became putty, and as her knees gave way, Andy caught her and carried her to her bed and did exactly as he'd promised. Sarah was lost in ecstasy. While Cindy thought her husband was on overnight layovers for work, he was really in Sarah's bed. Later, as they lay tangled on her bed, Andy murmured into her hair, "You're special." The others meant nothing. It was the closest he'd ever come to love. And it wasn't enough. Sarah didn't walk away after discovering Andy's infidelities. She fought harder for him. It started subtly. She dyed her hair platinum blonde after noticing Andy's lingering gaze on a passenger with that color. When he frowned, "I liked you brunette," she changed it back within 48 hours. She began initiating risky encounters, like pressing him against the cockpit door during flights, knowing the first officer could return any minute, whispering, "Tell me I'm the best you've had," as he panted against her neck. She spent 2 paychecks on a custom-made pilot's watch engraved with "Fly Me Forever," which Andy pocketed with a distracted "Thanks, babe." Sarah convinced herself she could outlast the others. She started accidentally leaving traces of herself in his life. A lipstick-stained napkin tucked in his flight manual. Cindy found it. Andy claimed it was from a passenger. Her perfume, black opium, spritzed on his collar before he went home. "Let her smell me on you," she thought to herself. When Andy scolded her, "You're being reckless," she leaned in, biting his earlobe, "Then punish me." For a while, it worked. Andy loved the challenge, the way Sarah mirrored his own hunger. He'd pin her to hotel walls, with Sarah growling mine like she'd won something. Then came the night Sarah broke the rules. Andy had taken her to a secluded beach near a layover in Cabo, one of their rare dates outside hotel rooms. Tipsy on margaritas, she'd grabbed his phone to snap a selfie. He wrestled it from her so violently her wrist bruised. "What the hell, Andy? No pictures of us together. Ever." His smile didn't reach his eyes. That's when she noticed it, the second phone peeking from his beach bag, buzzing with a notification. It was from Cindy, "Miss you. Home soon," she texted. Sarah's blood ran cold. This wasn't his work phone. This was his real one. The one he used with his family. Sarah's final play was both desperate and calculated. She decided to get pregnant for Andy, knowing that Cindy couldn't give him a baby because of 2 ectopic pregnancies that she had that damaged her fallopian tubes. When the test turned positive, Sarah was ecstatic. She rehearsed her speech in the mirror. "We can be a real family. I'll quit flying. You'll finally leave her." But when she told him, Andy just laughed. "You're not the first to try that, sweetheart." He tossed the test in the trash. "Take care of it." Sarah's hands shook, not from sadness but rage. That's when she decided to push him to the edge. "Or what? You'll ditch me like you ditched others." "Well, I'm keeping the baby," Sarah said defiantly. "And you need to tell Cindy," she said. Andy's expression, which was previously inscrutable, changed like she had just punched him in the gut. He quickly regained his composure and said with icy calm, "Not a good idea, Sarah, not a good idea," and walked out of the room. Andy was troubled. He thought to himself that none of his previous conquests had ever gotten themselves pregnant. None. But this idiot Sarah. Thankfully, he was going to be away from her and his home for 2 weeks on a training. Perhaps she'll come to her senses by the time he returned. Cindy knew something was wrong the moment Andy walked in. He'd been away for 2 weeks, but like clockwork, he always got back home from international trips to Spain in time for dinner. He was never late. Not for dinner, not for their weekly date nights, not for anything. Yet here he was, slipping through the front door at 9:47 p.m., his uniform wrinkled, his hair slightly mussed. Little did she know that her perfect life, as she knew it, would soon come crashing down. "Traffic?" she asked, stirring the now cold pasta on her plate. Andy avoided her eyes as he shrugged off his jacket. "Yeah. Sorry." But his mind was racing because Sarah had not confirmed to him whether she'd done as he said. She watched him move through the kitchen, too stiff, too careful, like a man walking through a minefield. Her stomach tightened. Something was wrong and it was serious. Was it work-related? His health? What? "You missed your mother's call," she said lightly. She wanted to confirm Thanksgiving plans. Andy grunted, yanking open the fridge. "I'll call her tomorrow." Cindy set down her fork. The metal clink seemed too loud in the quiet kitchen. "Are you okay?" "Fine." He grabbed a beer, twisted off the cap with too much force. "Just tired." Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from his sister. "Did you ask him about the cruise yet?" She ignored it, eyes locked on Andy. He was scrolling through his own phone, brow furrowed. Then, a tiny, telltale flinch. Her breath caught. "Who's texting you this late?" she asked, keeping her tone casual. Andy's thumb moved too fast, swiping the notification away. "Just work." A lie. She knew it in her bones. Cindy stood slowly. "Let me see." Andy stiffened. "What?" "Your phone. Let me see it." For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. Then Andy laughed. A hollow, forced sound. "Don't be ridiculous." She moved before he could react, snatching the phone from his hand. He lunged for it, but she twisted away, her heart pounding. The screen lit up, a text preview from SJ. "I mean it, Andy. Friday or I tell her myself." The world tilted. Cindy's fingers went numb. "Who," she whispered, "is SJ?" Andy's face drained of color. "Cindy." She unlocked his phone. His password was still their anniversary, and the full thread opened. Message after message. Heart emojis. Hotel room numbers. And then, "I'm pregnant." The phone slipped from her fingers, clattering to the tile. She picked it up again and stared at the screen. "You bastard," she breathed. Andy reached for her. "It's not what you think." Cindy slapped him. Hard. The crack echoed through the kitchen, and grabbed a knife when he made to lunge at her. He had never seen Cindy like this. Cindy walked as in a daze to the den, trying to understand what she just discovered. So the rumors were true, she thought to herself. She immediately forwarded screenshots of every incriminating texts, pictures, she could find to her phone, and found out that there were many others. Sarah was number 7. Number 7. A sober Andy was waiting for her as she came back to the kitchen. As he made to touch her, she snarled, "If you dare." And he dropped his hands with a defeated look on his face, like someone that had been caught pants down. "Get out," she screamed and tossed him his phone. Cindy had heard some rumors in the pilot's wives' circles that her Andy was something of a ladies' man, but she never believed it. Put it down to vicious lies from jealous colleagues because of his many successes. But now she knew that she had been the fool all this while. Her mind was racing. The slap still burned on Andy's cheek as the front door slammed behind him. Cindy stood frozen in the kitchen, her breath coming in sharp, shallow bursts. The house was too quiet. No hum of the refrigerator, no tick of the clock, just the deafening echo of her own heartbeat. Thank God the girls were at their grandparents'. She recalled what she saw in Andy's phone. "I'm pregnant." She scrolled through the screenshots that she sent to her phone with methodical precision. Each one felt like a knife twisting deeper. Hotel confirmations for cities where Andy had overnight layovers. Selfies of Sarah, young, glowing, triumphant, in a rumpled Skyline Airlines blouse. A sonogram photo dated 2 weeks prior. 2 weeks. He'd known. And he'd still kissed Cindy as he returned this night like nothing was wrong. Cindy moved through the house like a ghost, seeing everything anew. She had been a fool. The scales fell off her eyes and things started adding up. My goodness, it hurts to be made a big fool by a man she had loved with her entire being, she muttered. The late meetings, that always coincided with Sarah's flights. The new cologne she'd bought him for Christmas. For special occasions, he'd said. Now she knew what those were. The way he'd flinch when she touched his phone, always brushing it off with a joke. She sank onto the couch, her mind racing. The rumors she'd dismissed for years. Andy's got a girl in every hub, he's got a type, naive and pretty, now played in her head like a taunt. But this? A baby? Sarah wasn't just another fling. She was a threat. Remembering that she couldn't have children of her own, Cindy wept bitterly through the night like her life had just ended. And in a sense, it had. She lay curled up in a fetal position for 24 hours, totally confused. Gosh, Andy. Her mind reeling. She can only imagine how she must have been the butt of jokes in the pilot circles, not to mention among their wives. And then a certain resolve set in. A resolve to revenge in the worst possible way that she could think of, use Sarah Jones. Cindy knew she needed get moving because she had mourned the loss of her marriage long enough. She started planning with cold hard fury. She will make him pay big time for the years of deception. First, she knew she had retained every evidence she could find during the short time she had his phone. She had forwarded every incriminating text and image she could find to her own phone. Took screenshots of credit card charges for hotels, gifts, even a prenatal massage in Miami. She dug up old emails. His passwords were always easy for her to guess, but she had trusted him too much to ever dig into his activities. There she saw Andy requesting Sarah on his flights under the guise of crew preference. Sarah's Instagram was public. Cindy studied every post. The girl was emotional, reckless, desperate for validation. Andy's Achilles heel? His ego. He'd never believed a 24-year-old could outsmart him. Cindy's trump card? The prenup. Andy had cheated, technically voiding the clause protecting his assets. Cindy picked up her phone and dialed a number she'd never called before. Sarah Jones. It rang twice before a breathless, hopeful voice answered. Hello. Cindy's smile was ice. Sweetheart, it's his wife. Silence. Then, oh God, Cindy, Save it, Cindy cut in, her voice smooth as poisoned honey. We need to talk. Woman to woman. Sarah hesitated. Why would I trust you? Cindy laughed. Because, Cindy said, staring at the sonogram she got from Andy's phone, I'm the only one who can guarantee that baby gets his last name. The moment Cindy's voice slithered through the phone, Sarah's blood turned to ice. Sweetheart, it's his wife. No need to ask who's he or pretend. Sarah's grip on her phone tightened, her knuckles bleaching white. She was standing in the middle of her tiny apartment, the ultrasound photo still taped to her fridge, half-empty Chinese takeout containers littering the coffee table. The TV was on, some reality show playing to fill the silence. For a second, she considered hanging up. This is a trap, she thought to herself. But then Cindy said the magic words. I'm the only one who can guarantee that baby gets his last name. Sarah's breath hitched. Sarah's mind raced. Was Andy with her right now? Did he know Cindy was calling? Was this a trick? A way to lure her into admitting something? Or worse, was Cindy recording this? Her eyes darted to her front door, half expecting Andy to burst in, furious. How did you get my number? Sarah demanded, her voice sharper than she intended. Cindy's laugh was soft, almost pitying. Oh, Sarah. It's on every text you sent my husband, remember? Sarah's stomach lurched. Sarah's fear curdled into anger. What do you want, Cindy? You gonna scream at me? Call me a homewrecker? She scoffed. He's the one who lied to both of us. A beat of silence. Then, oh, save it, Cindy snapped. I don't want to fight you, Cindy said, her voice eerily calm. I want to ruin him. Sarah froze. Cindy laid it out like a business deal. I have proof of everything. The affairs, the lies, the money he spent on you. Enough to bury him in divorce court. But I need your help to make sure he can't weasel out of it. In return, Cindy continued smoothly, I'll make sure your baby gets every penny he's owed. Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears. This is insane. But then she thought of Andy's smirk when he tossed the pregnancy test in the trash. Take care of it. Her fingers drifted to her stomach. How? Cindy's voice dropped to a whisper. Meet me tomorrow. Neutral ground. Sarah hesitated. Why? Because, Cindy said, we're going to make him confess. The line went dead. Sarah stood there, heart hammering, staring at her reflection in the dark TV screen. She looked terrified, but for the first time in weeks felt powerful. The location was the Glass Orchid Cafe, a chic, neutral spot with floor-to-ceiling windows, chosen by Cindy so Andy couldn't claim they were plotting in the shadows. Sarah arrived first, her hands clenched around a chamomile tea she didn't drink. She wore oversized sunglasses and a hoodie, though she wasn't sure why. It's not like Cindy didn't know her face. Then the door chimed. Cindy Edwards glided in like a queen, her cream trench coat pristine, her blonde bob perfectly styled. No sunglasses. No shame. She slid into the booth across from Sarah and set down her purse and a folder with deliberate calm. You look younger in person, Cindy said, not unkindly. Sarah bristled. And you look exactly like your Instagram. A flicker of amusement crossed Cindy's face. So, you're keeping it? Sarah's hand instinctively covered her stomach. Yes. Good. Cindy pulled out a manila folder and slid it across the table. Then let's talk about how we destroy him. Cindy had gotten busy digging ever since she discovered her husband's betrayal. Inside the folder were Andy's hidden bank records, offshore accounts, unexplained cash withdrawals. A list of every woman he'd slept with at Skyline. Sarah was number 7. A draft paternity lawsuit, already filled out, just waiting for Sarah's signature. Sarah's throat tightened. You've been planning this. Cindy sipped her espresso. Since the first rumor. I couldn't get myself to believe it, but the rumors persisted and were difficult to shake off. I just didn't have any proof. Andy made sure of that. She nodded at Sarah's stomach. And you're my smoking gun. Did he tell you that I worked myself to the bone to ensure that he trained and qualified as a pilot? Sarah shook her head. Well, why am I not surprised? Cindy snarled. Sarah hesitated. What's in it for you? The house. His pension. His name. Cindy's smile was razor-thin. And you? You get his future. She tapped the lawsuit. Sign this, and I'll make sure Andy pays child support for life. Sarah exhaled sharply. What do you need me to do? Cindy slid a sleek voice recorder across the table. Get him to admit it. All of it. The affairs. The lies. That he told you to abort his child. Sarah's fingers hovered over the device. He'll never confess. Oh, he will. Cindy's eyes glittered. You'll find a way to make him talk. Sarah's breath caught. You want me to bait him? I want him to hang himself with his own ego. Cindy leaned in. And when he does, we'll both win. Sarah hesitated. Why should I trust you? Cindy's gaze dropped to Sarah's stomach, just for a second, before locking back onto her face. Because I could have had you fired. I could have made your life hell. She tilted her head. But I didn't. Because that baby, it's the one thing he'll never escape. Her heart skipped a beat. Then Sarah picked up the recorder. When do we start? Sarah sent the text to Andy. It's done. I'd taken care of it while you were gone. No more baby. Meet me at Hangar 7 to talk. Sarah informed Cindy, who notified Skyline and the FAA. Our Hangar 7. Andy smiled. The mere thought of that spot sent his heart racing and his whole body pulsating. It was one of their favorite spots. The other being her apartment. Andy responded in under a minute. Smart girl. Be there in 20. The 20 minutes seemed like a lifetime. As Sarah waited in the echoing hangar, she adjusted the wire hidden under her Skyline uniform. Cindy's final words as she was leaving the cafe echoed in her memory. He'll confess. They always do when they think they've won. The screech of tires outside. Andy strode in confidently, grinning. Cindy was right. The hollow echo of Andy's footsteps bounced off the steel walls as he strode into the hangar, his pilot's jacket slung over one shoulder. His grin was wolfish, triumphant. Knew you'd see reason, he said, reaching for Sarah's waist. What you and I have is too good to let a baby come in between. She sidestepped, heart hammering. You didn't even ask if I was okay. Andy chuckled, stepping closer. Why dwell on the past? Now we can have fun without complications. His hand grazed her cheek. You're still the most beautiful girl at Skyline. Sarah forced a smile. Even after what you made me do. Andy's thumb traced her lip. I didn't make you do anything. You chose to be smart. You said it'd ruin your life. Sarah retorted. Our lives, he corrected, pulling her flush against him. But now? We can pick up where we left off. Sarah's voice wavered. You told me to kill our baby. Andy's grip tightened. And you listened, good girl. That's why I... A metallic click cut him off. The wire. Andy recoiled, yanking her collar. The hidden microphone tumbled out, blinking red. You lying bitch. He backhanded her across the face in a flash of rage. No one saw that coming. Sarah crumpled to the concrete, scrambling back as Andy kicked her ribs. Once, twice, his polished dress shoes aiming for her stomach. Should have finished the job, he snarled. A shrill whistle pierced the air. FAA. Hands where we can see them. Cindy rushed to Sarah as federal agents flanked her and the hangar doorway. That's assault on a pregnant woman, they called. And we have it all on tape. Sarah clung to life for 3 agonizing months. Long enough to deliver a healthy baby girl via emergency C-section before the internal bleeding from Andy's kicks stole her last breath. Mia stood vigil at the hospital, clutching Sarah's limp hand as the monitors flatlined. I'll make him pay, she whispered through tears. But it was Cindy who arrived with a lawyer and a demand. I'll be filing for custody. The custody hearing was held in courtroom 4B 1 month later. Mia's plea was that Sarah wanted her to raise her baby. She told me as much, she said. Cindy's plea was that Sarah just wanted a father who wasn't a monster. Since we can't have that. She placed a hand on the bassinet, said emphatically, this child will grow up in a caring, loving home along with Andy's two nieces that I've been taking care of since their parents passed. Her mother and father might have done me wrong, but this baby is innocent. The judge noted Cindy's stable home and Mia's unstable single lifestyle, per Cindy's private investigator. The irony of the betrayed wife raising her husband's child from an affair not lost on the judge. Ruling was temporary custody to Cindy Edwards. Andy faced 5 charges. First, second-degree murder, fetal harm laws and Sarah's death. Second, aggravated assault of a pregnant woman. Third, witness tampering, attempted bribery of FAA staff. Fourth, violation of FAA regulations, coercion of crew member. Fifth, wire fraud, forged flight logs to cover affairs. As a result, Skyline Airlines terminated him publicly, revoking his pension. Cindy's divorce settlement left him bankrupt. He was sentenced to 25 to life. 2 years later, in Cindy's garden at sunset, a toddler named Michelle, named for Sarah's mother, chased butterflies as Cindy sipped iced tea, watching Mia approach with wary eyes. "She looks like her," Mia commented, looking at little Michelle. Cindy adjusting the child's sun hat, "But she'll be nothing like her. Or him." Then Cindy slid a photo across the table. It was Andy in prison orange, hollow-eyed. "I will ensure that Michelle is nothing like them," Cindy said firmly. There was an uncanny resemblance between father and daughter, and there was also, strangely, Cindy's loving smile as she looked at Michelle. Mia couldn't help but think of Cindy's complexity. Not redemption, but calculated mercy on the child of 2 people that hurt her deeply. This story isn't just about revenge. It's about who inherits the damage. A child born from betrayal, raised by the woman her father wronged most. A predator locked away, yet his bloodline lives on in the hands of those he hurt. Was it justice? Or just another kind of punishment? Here are some questions for you, our viewers. Was Cindy right to take the baby, or did Mia deserve custody? Does Michelle deserve to know the truth about her parents when she's older? Who suffered the most? Andy, Cindy, or Sarah? Would you have shown Andy mercy if you were Cindy? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming stories.